A spiritual, not religious program. Each of us has our own spiritual path. As we explore our spirituality, we find ourselves on a journey of self discovery. When we live with spiritual awareness, we find harmony with the God of our understanding, with ourselves, and with others. There is no single recipe for spirituality. Each of us finds our own way to live spiritually, and that allows us freedom to make choices about how we live. It also charges us with responsibility. We cannot pretend that spirituality is not central to the NA program or the NA way of life, but there is room within that for people of all beliefs, including those with no beliefs at all. Our right to our own spirituality in NA is unconditional, and that also means we must allow that right to others. It's not very complicated, but this is one area of our recovery that we seem to love to complicate. Any single definition of spiritual principles would be too restrictive for us. Our traditions remind us that NA is not a place where any single spiritual path is endorsed. Finding a spirituality that works for us can be one of the most important challenges that we face in recovery. And yet, we are often afraid to talk about it. We may worry that we will feel out of place or that others will be uncomfortable with what we are sharing. When we are carrying the message, we learn to make the boundary clear between our personal spiritual experiences and the message of NA. Finding a balance in which we are open to one another's experience without creating the impression that we are endorsing a particular religion can be a struggle. While we may pursue a religion or path that uses specific language to refer to spiritual concepts, we ask ourselves how we can express that in a way we can all understand. We use more general language out of respect for all the various perspectives in the fellowship, even though in another setting we might use language more specific to our own particular faith. It can be difficult to find a way to talk about our spirituality and still leave the door open for everyone to have their own path as well. We use many different words to describe our higher power. We do our best to share our deepening spiritual experience in a way that makes it available to everyone in the room. Most importantly, we find people we trust and respect with whom we feel comfortable sharing one-on-one. The work that the work doesn't all happen in meetings. We share and explore with our sponsor in step work or among our trusted friends. We may not ever have to leave NA to find our spirituality, but if our spiritual explorations take place outside the rooms, it is crucial that we understand that NA welcomes us back from every new voyage. Each time, we have new understanding to share and new challenges to work through as a result of our spiritual growth. One of the most beautiful things about our program is that it works regardless of our different beliefs. NA needs to be a place where we all feel welcomed. Even when we're pretty sure everyone in the room shares the same faith, we still need to make sure that the NA message is clear. We don't limit our application of the traditions to those times when we can see a problem they seem to solve. Keeping our message clear helps us all. The more I learn to share my spirituality in NA language, the more clearly I can see the connections between my faith and NA, a member explained. When we find ways to share our new insights using our common language of recovery, our ability to carry the NA message strengthens. Our fellowship matures and develops as each of us brings our increasing understanding to the table. We grow from one another's experience when we are willing to share and to listen with an open mind. Even though it is so central to our recovery, many of us resist talking about spirituality because it comes so close to a conversation about religion. There are many reasons we may be uncomfortable with this. First of all, it's something many of us have learned not to discuss. We know faith is deeply personal. Others of us don't have a way of talking about it without trying to bring other people's faith in line with ours. We already need to change so much that it's important for us to know that our system of faith, whatever it is, will not be threatened by our program. It may be challenged, though, and as we begin to practice our spirituality more actively than we have, we can have philosophical discussions all day long and never make any progress in our spiritual lives. On the other hand, some of the most spiritual people we know say very little about spirituality. Their quiet example is more powerful than words. The principles we share in the steps, the traditions, the concepts, and the rest of our literature go a long way toward providing us with a common language we can all understand and identify with. We say over and over that this is a spiritual, not religious program, but that doesn't mean the program can't work for religious people. Some of us come to NA with a foundation and a faith with which we are very comfortable. Others of us find our way to organized religion as a result of the work we do to build a relationship with higher power in the steps. Some of us find alternative spiritual paths or find that the spirituality we achieve through the program is enough. There is no right or wrong answer on this. There is no progression that brings us naturally toward or away from organized religion. What is important is that we accept that the program is spiritual in nature, that some of what we depend on here is a great mystery, that some of it doesn't make sense. Many of us say that even after years clean, we still don't know how it works. We just know that it works. Allowing the possibility that there will always be something we don't know means that there is always room for something greater than ourselves to work on us and through us. Some of us have maintained the religious beliefs we grew up with, but in our addiction we compromised ourselves in ways that ran deeply against those beliefs. Many of us had to work so hard to distance ourselves from what our beliefs had been that the way we respond to hearing about them always feels like an allergy. It can be a long time before we know why that language makes us so uncomfortable. When we start hearing people talk about a higher power, it can feel like we're about to be pushed through all those feelings again, and it's natural that this makes us nervous. We may have negative experiences with religion, or experiences that made our relationship to religion uncomfortable. It can be challenging to face that. Many of us experienced religious efforts to save us from our addiction, and found that faith alone was insufficient to set us free. Or we may have a very well-developed religious faith and fear that NA is going to ask us to give that up. Whatever our experience, it is critical to our recovery that we find some kind of understanding we can work with. When we are in the process of figuring that out, other people's opinions about what that should be can feel confusing or threatening. It is imperative that we give one another time and space to come to a belief system of our own. On the other hand, we can be too quick to cut off conversations that some of us need to have in order to reconcile our recovery with our other beliefs. A member confessed, "I have had a struggle with my faith since coming to NA. I still practice the faith I grew up with and have been very active in it since I got clean. But when I came into the rooms and shared about my spiritual awakenings, I felt shut down. I left for a while to follow that path, but I realized I need to be here too. So I find a way to make peace with the gap between them. Without that effort, we risk alienating people and limiting our own understanding of the connections between our spiritual development and our experience in recovery. Spiritual growth may be a struggle sometimes, but that doesn't mean it's going badly. That struggle is often how we get to a spirituality that works for us. Our beliefs grow as our spirits awaken. When we actually experience our beliefs, they become more vital. For some of us, that means finding a style of prayer that resonates with us. Some of us find other ways to make a conscious contact that suits our beliefs. But the key to spiritual growth is that it is growth, which means it changes, and it's going to change us. A member shared, "When I had around 10 years clean, I realized I wasn't being honest in my relationship with God because I was pretending I wasn't angry. I realized if I wasn't honest in that relationship, how did any of my other relationships stand a chance?" Each time we recognize an opportunity for spiritual growth, we experience a reawakening of hope.